Hello everybody, Abed's brother here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the performance of Borderlands 4 on some old PCs. Borderlands 4 was developed by Gearbox Software, published by 2K Games. It was released on September 11th, 2025. It uses the Unreal 5 engine and the DirectX 12 API. And you can see the minimum and recommended specifications on screen here. We are going to be under minimum spec for a bunch of this video. Our first test system is the AMD FX-8320e and GTX 1060. And this was, I want to call it an edifying experience. Like, I learned a lot. I didn't expect performance to be good. You can see here we're at 1080p low, and FSR is on quality, so I believe we're actually running at 720p. And the CPU is at 100%, and it's going to be at 100% the entire run here. And this is how it performs. I did not expect great performance. I was hoping for 30 FPS, and you can see the GTX 1060 is not fully utilized, so it is definitely... Oh wow, transparent bike, there it is. You can see the 1060 is being severely bottlenecked. So the 1060 can give more. As I've said in previous videos, GTX 1060 and RX 480 are basically the same performance. The 1060 6GB, which this is. They're basically the same performance. RX 480 has no trouble maintaining mostly 30 FPS, so there's clearly some bottlenecking happening with the CPU here, and that's just unfortunate, really. You'd like to think that these old systems can still play these games. Oh yeah, even though it's old, you know, it still kind of works and you can get by. Not really. Not with the FX 8 core here. Even if you had an FX 9590 with another 800 megahertz on it over what I've got here, I still don't think it would make that much of a difference. The FX chips are just not really up to the task, and you really get to see that here. It's just not really playable. I kind of pushed through here and did try to get through this little benchmark run that I have set up. But it was definitely a trial of patience. Fortunately, my build is pretty OP at this point. I had just gotten this pistol, and I forget what it is called, but it is very overpowered. So I was very confident running into this benchmark run that I wasn't going to get downed by any of the mobs or anything. But definitely not something that if you have an FX CPU, like, this isn't even get by territory. This is, we're now that we're in the action, we're around between 20 and 24 FPS. If you are absolutely desperate to play Borderlands 4 and this is all you have, I guess you could put up with it. But to me, this is unplayable. This is not, you know, I'm fine with 30 FPS, but this is not 30 FPS. And you saw right there, it even dipped to 15. This is not a playable experience, so don't do it. Don't try it. You won't be happy. And at this point, when performance is this bad, you know, it's also going to hurt your perception of the game. You know, maybe you're going to have trouble killing a boss because it can't register your hits because it's still loading in assets or something. And then you're going to wind up dying to the boss because then everything's going to catch up in a rush and the shots you should have hit aren't going to actually hit. You know, it's just a disservice to yourself. It's a disservice to the game. It's not something I recommend. What happens if we use frame gen, though? I just kind of cut ahead here, and I'm going over here since I didn't reload the game. Frame gen, surprisingly, seems to do quite a bit better. The problem is the response time is still terrible. even if the visuals are a lot smoother. But now we have this issue. You notice the overlay on screen. We have like overlays on overlays here, but you notice there's this these white bars above the shield and health on the left and above the ammo indicator on the right. That's specific to this character. I'm playing Rafa, and he has, and that's from the frame gen. It's not supposed to flicker like that. So the FSR frame gen, kind of disappointing there. Test System 2 is the i7-4790 and the Radeon RX 480. And this is the 8GB version because when I bought it, and we're on the same settings as the GTX 1060. When I bought it, I always went for the high VRAM variant, and we really need the extra video memory here. You saw that with the 1060. We were definitely using about 5.5 gigabytes of VRAM. The RX 480, I believe, is going to be near 6. But 1080p low FSR quality. And the i7-4790 doing a lot better than the FX-8320e. Now, it's not perfectly smooth.
Looks like the order misplaced another supply pod.
But you can see right away we are staying, it is fairly smooth, and we are staying above 30 FPS most of the time here. So, and the Radeon driver on Windows has a little bit more CPU overhead than the NVIDIA driver. So if you have a GTX 1060 and you pair it with an i7-4790, that's probably going to be the best possible setup. But here the 4790 is barely holding on, but it is holding on. And you can see, yeah, we're at 6.2 gigs of VRAM here. So you definitely, if you're going to try soldiering through this with an RX 480, you definitely need the 8GB model. You're not going to be happy with a 4GB model, because then it's going to overflow into the system RAM. Now, this PC only has 16 gigabytes of system RAM, and you can see we are using about 13 gigs here. So there's not much overflow room if you run out of VRAM. So it's important to get the high VRAM variant of the RX 480 if you want to try this. But over 30 FPS most of the time. Now this I could live with. The FX-8320e really not up to the task, but the i7-4790, again, I don't recommend this, but if this is what you have, I could get by with this, and I could enjoy the game like this. Put a 30 FPS lock on it, and you know, enjoy Borderlands 4. It's not ideal. It's not the way the game should be enjoyed, in my opinion. You know, this really has that Doom-like gameplay where you really want to get 60 FPS, but if this is what you have, it's not a bad experience. It's a subpar experience, but it's not outrageously bad the way the FX-8320e was bad. And I mean, we've got fire and explosions, and we've got the mobs, and we are staying above 30 FPS. I would expect the frame rate to drop under 30 FPS if we're loading like new areas, as assets are loading in or leaving or unloading, and but you know, for me, this is a very amazing performance. We got a big stutter there. Special effects probably loading in from that electricity explosion. Still an amazing performance. 4790 is and RX 480 are both under the minimum recommended spec on this on Borderlands 4. So this is just gravy here. This is, you feel like you're getting away with something with this particular combination, and you are, because there's no way it should be playing this game this well. Let's explode a barrel. And even the SSD doesn't seem to have any trouble keeping up. The SSD is a Patriot Burst Elite, which is kind of a cheap SSD. I don't even think it has a DRAM cache. But, as impressive as that is, can we make it even better with frame generation? Now, unfortunately, it's going to be FSR frame gen again, and I am playing Rafa, so I do expect to see the Rafa's action skill overlay is going to flicker a bit. So we were in low to mid 30s with FSR quality. With frame gen, we are in mid to upper 50s now. But the response time is still going to be like it's 30 FPS. So you're not, the only thing you're improving here with frame gen is visual smoothness, because it's not in the response times. And unfortunately, I must not have loaded the game again here because the enemies didn't respawn. I don't know what this warden is doing here all by himself. But unfortunately, FSR frame gen is not the best option here for Borderlands 4, at least when playing Rafa, just because of his action skill overlay. You got those white lines and they shimmer and they flicker, and it kinda looks like garbage. The upscaling part of FSR, I believe I don't know that the upscaling had any tweaks for FSR 3.1. I think it's just FSR 2.1 or something with frame gen. I could be wrong on that, though. Impressive showing from the 4790, though. But now let's get up to some horsepower. We've got the i7-5930K and the Vega 64. And we're not going to go easy on this, blower card or not. We're gonna go to 1440p here, because Vega is, at the end of the day, a 1440p GPU, and we're going to run the low preset with FSR quality. I believe, so FSR quality, as like a universal, is 67% of the target resolution. So 67% of 1440p is like 960p, so it's not quite 1080p. But 1440p low with FSR quality, and we are in mid 40s to 50. Stutter. Mostly 40s. It looks like between 40 and 50. The 5930K is, for as well as the 4790 did, the 5930K seems to be more stressed, or equally stressed, which I'm surprised about. So how much was the 4790 like deferring or not showing or not rendering? And Vega, I think it's bottlenecking Vega a little bit because it's not fully utilized, and Vega's power draw is down. We're only at 180 watts on Vega. So Vega, I don't know if that's just a Vega thing for Unreal 5. Like, there are certain things it needs to render in software, which is a CPU load, so it doesn't always show up as a GPU load, so it looks like it's running light. I mean, if you have a better CPU with Borderlands 4, you're obviously going to, I'm going to say, definitely have smoother gameplay. I don't know if you're going to get more frame rate, not much more anyway. Vega's GPU dropped down to 90% there, so 5930K is bottlenecking Vega 64 a little bit. That is not usual at all. Usually this is a very evenly matched pairing here. But Borderlands 4 is just very demanding. That's just the nature of the game. And that's a debate a lot of people have had. Does it look good enough to justify the demanding system requirements? And in my opinion, it doesn't. I think it looks about as good as Borderlands 3 with, I want to say, a little bit better lighting. Like, you can tell the way the glow around the lights and you know, sunrise and sunset and all that kind of stuff, and ambient lights here in the fortress or whatever. All the lighting looks really good, and I think that's the biggest improvement over Borderlands 3. But I appreciate it, but I don't think it was needed. But 40 to 50 FPS here, that's pretty good. You know, if you have a more powerful CPU, you're going to get more performance, a little bit more performance from Vega, not much. We are running right about at my target clock speed. I set a target clock speed of between 1546 and 15. It's in my Vega undervolting video. That's the Vega settings I'm using for this. But it's just not drawing as much power, which I think is why it's running relatively cool for a blower Vega. But now the big question is, how will it do with FrameGen? And with FrameGen, so we went from between 40 and 50 FPS. We're now running, we're going to run about 70? 70 to 80? But we see we have the shimmering overlay again on Rafa's action skill. I tell you, that is the biggest problem with FSR FrameGen, at least 3.1 FrameGen, which is all we can use on older cards like Vega, because, you know, they don't have the processing, what are they called, neural processing that the newer cards have to use FSR 4. So we're stuck on, if you're running a Vega, this is what you're stuck with. I don't know if I could put up with that or not. I'd probably turn FrameGen off here, since base frame rate is 40 to 50 and feels okay. Still an impressive result from Vega, but now let's go into the Ryzen 5 5500 and the Intel Arc A770. And this one is going to be interesting. So same settings as Vega. We're at 1440p. Low preset, but we are running XeSS quality. So this is going to be interesting. I thought about just using FSR for this as well, but I know Intel's FrameGen is better than AMD's, so we'll test XeSS FrameGen in a minute. And you can see the Ryzen 5 5500 is pretty stressed. And again, the Arc A7, like Vega, the Intel Arc A770's power draw is down. We're barely drawing 150 watts here. Whereas if the A770 were truly fully loaded, it would be drawing about 220. But you can see we're doing better than Vega. Vega was between 40 and 50, and the A770 here looks like it's hanging around 50 most of the time. We're dipping under 50 now and then, but we are definitely running about 5 or 6 frames better than Vega right now. Still running low on the power draw though, so this is there's a feature in Unreal 5, it's a programming feature. I don't know what it does, I just know that it's called Execute Indirect. It's part of the coding of it. And the problem with the Arc A series is that it cannot execute that command within the hardware. It has to be done in the driver. That's one of the drawbacks to the Arc A series, the A770, 750, 580. When you go to Battle Mage, the Intel Arc B series, that can run those Unreal 5 commands, the execute indirect. It does it in the hardware with hardware acceleration. That's why Battle Mage tends to perform better in Unreal 5 titles. But Borderlands 4 is a pretty big release, so I guess they optimized their driver of the A series for Borderlands 4, because this is pretty good performance. I mean, you're using the upscaling, but I mean, at this point, you're probably going to have to do that, because the A770 is not the most powerful GPU. But it is staying under 8 gigs of VRAM, so if you have an 8 gigabyte A series card, this is not, but if you did, this is very playable with 8 gigabytes of VRAM on Intel Arc. And I see it's downclocking even. We hit 2000 megahertz from 2400, so even now the Ryzen 5500 is, I think, bottlenecking the A770 just a little bit. To be fair, there is a lot that is happening on screen. And we're dipping to mid-40s, it looks like, at the absolute lowest, but still. Goes right back up to around 50-ish. This is very much in line with other Unreal 5 games that I've tested on the A770. Not the greatest performance, but for Intel Arc, for the A series, this is very good for an Unreal 5 game. Borderlands 4 has had a lot of optimization patches. There was a big optimization patch, I want to say, a couple months ago at this point. And performance has really gotten a lot better. But now, let's see how XeSS FrameGen works. And you can see it... What the heck? What was that? You can see it introduced a bunch of microstutter in the frame time graph. I don't feel that. I don't know why it's showing on the graph. I certainly don't feel it while I'm playing the game in the action. But now you can see the big difference between XeSS FrameGen and FSR FrameGen. Rafa's overlay here that you get when you activate his action skill is perfectly clear. So FSR, clearly subpar. XeSS is way better, obviously, for the FrameGen implementation. And the frame rate improves to be a lot better than, quite a bit better than Vega with FrameGen. So definitely a very passable performance from Arc A770. I don't want to say impressive, because, I mean, we're using upscaling and FrameGen at this point to get maximum visual smoothness. But this is definitely something to consider if you're shopping Borderlands 4. So, kind of a mixed bag here. Borderlands 4 is an advanced game. It's a very demanding game, and I think we all know that at this point. The FX-8320e is definitely out of its league here. If you have AMD FX chip, don't bother with Borderlands 4. I do not recommend it. The i7-4790 is also kind of pushed to its limit, but you can get by with it. GTX 1060, RX 480 can both handle it if at 1080p with quality upscaling. If you're happy with 30 FPS, but you're going to really need to go to Vega or Intel Arc if you're looking for 50 FPS, 1440p with upscaling. It's really a demanding game, and if you're really looking for decent performance, you probably should get more than a 6-core CPU, because the 5930K and the Ryzen 5500 were both really pushed hard to their limits. I'd say get an 8-core, preferably with SMT or hyper-threading, because Borderlands 4 is that demanding, and that's just a fact. And it's had a lot of optimization, and I feel like the game does run pretty well for an Unreal 5 engine game, but it's just a load to run. That's just a fact, and unfortunately, we as gamers just have to deal with it. That's all I got for you today. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.